Hello children, welcome to Soma Ma'am's English classes. Today we are doing the first chapter of the book Hornbill of class 11, The Portrait of a Lady, written by Khushwant Singh. In this video you will get the detailed summary of the lesson. So let's begin. Khushwant Singh, he was born in 2nd February on 2nd February 1915 and he died very recently, that is 20th March 2014. He was an Indian author, lawyer, diplomat, journalist and politician. His experience in the 1947 partition of India inspired him to write Train to Pakistan. It's a very famous book, Train to Pakistan. If you get a chance to read this book, do read this book. You will get a great experience about the partition of India. Now a film was also made on this novel. Now his occupation, he was a lawyer, journalist, diplomat, writer. His relatives are still Sir Sobha Singh, his father, and he died. All these things we have already came to know. Now on the left you see the picture of Khushwant Singh. Now we will begin the portrait of a lady and the introduction of the lesson. Now the picture, the sketch, pen picture, words picture, what the author draws, that pictorial depiction I have given on the right side of the this video. Okay, so the portrait of a lady is the story of the author himself. It is like an autobiography. He describes his relationship with his grandmother over the years. He pens down her daily activities and how she evolved as a character as time passed by. He explains her appearance, which helps create an image in the reader's mind. And one more thing I want to mention in this story is that while reading the story, I am damn sure that all of you will be able to visualize your grandmother in your mind. So this is a tribute to all the grandmothers at our home. Now this is the summary of the lesson. On every video, on every slide, on every picture you will see one or the other grandmother. Now the chapter, the portrait of a lady, is the story of the author and his grandmother. The grandmother was an old woman with a wrinkled face. The author had always seen her like this for the past 20 years. Now see this lady on the right hand side, and in the previous picture also this lady, you can imagine your grandmother's face. Now let's continue. She appeared to be so old that he could not imagine her being young. No one can imagine your grandmother to be a young girl or a young lady, beautiful lady. And nobody can imagine her to be young and pretty. Someone who had a husband. She was short, fat, and slightly bent. This is also very common. You must be thinking that, oh, this is just same like my grandmother. Now see, the author had seen his grandfather's portrait, an old man with a turban and a long white beard covering his chest. As you all must have understood that Khushwant Singh was Punjabi, so his grandfather must be looking like this, something like this. This picture of this is an old man, of a Punjabi old man, what you can see on the right hand side. So this is he is having a turban, that is the pagdi, and a long white beard covering his chest. Now, to the author, his grandfather didn't seem like a man who could have a wife and children, but someone who could have lots of grandchildren. Okay, so you all must be thinking that, oh, this is like my grandfather also. His grandmother used to move around the house in spotless white, with her one hand resting on her waist and her other hand counting the beads of her rosary. See, in the picture you see a rosary. वो जो तुलसी का माला होता है, you also must have seen old people always keeping counting that rosary, that beads of the rosary. This is very common among the religious people. Now, in the initial days, the author and his grandmother had a good relationship. She used to wake him up and get him ready for school. She used to pack the things required by him for the day and walked him to school every day. So they had a very close relation. Actually you will see that there are three stages in the story, where you see that in the first stage the grandchild, that is Khushwant Singh, and his grandmother, they are very close, and gradually you will see that how their relationship, the gap increases. Now she used to visit these everyday activities of the grandmother is very important. You get a lot of questions from this part. She used to visit the temple that was attached to the school. She had a routine of reading the scriptures. The author, along other children, sat on the veranda, singing alphabets and morning prayers. See, every picture you will get a grandmother, and I have tried to depict the different activities of grandmother because you get a lot of questions. They both used to come back home together with stray dogs roaming around them, as his grandmother would carry the stale chapatis to feed them. Okay, see the grandmother in the picture, she is feeding those stray dogs, those street dogs. Okay, now soon the parents of the author who went to the city to settle in and called them. As they reached the city, the grandmother and this Khushwant Singh, the author, before they were staying in the village, now they shifted to city along with their parents. Now his relationship with his grandmother took a turn. Though they shared the room, their bond grew apart. Slowly their choice, and so the boy was growing up, so their choice and everything were getting changed, so their relationship, the bonding, grew apart. Now I want to tell this word GREW. This is actually grew. The pronunciation is grew. It is the past tense of grow. Now you are watching this video from the channel Matchless Mentor. I am your mentor and English teacher, Soma ma'am. Now this boy, Khushwant Singh, when he was a small boy, he started going to an English medium school. She no longer accompanied him to the school. Before she used to take him to the school, but now she no longer accompanied him to the school. And there were no longer stray dogs who roamed around them while walking back home. So this was the change in their lifestyle. And let's see what happens next. She, however, used to ask him about his day and what he had learned. She didn't understand anything, as everything was in another language. Everything was in English, because now the author was going to a English medium city school. So that this language was not compatible to the grandmother, and whatever the things were taught in school was also not liked by the grandmother. All those details are given in the text. You must read them very minutely. Now she didn't understand anything as everything was in another language. She could not understand actually. Okay, so this was a big problem with the grandmother, and she started showing least interest. She didn't approve of the new syllabus that he was studying because she thought that they did not teach him about God and scriptures. They saw less of each other. See in the picture, you can see the grandmother is becoming lonely, solitary day by day. Okay, she was having less work now. As the days passed, he grew older and soon went to the university. He means author Khushwant Singh. He had his own room and this made their relationship sour because they were disliking each other now, and they were not able to understand each other now, and the generation gap was becoming very apparent now, very clear now. Now she stopped talking to everyone and spent her whole day sitting at her spinning wheel, reciting prayers and moving beads of the rosary with one hand. See in the picture, you can see the grandmother. She is sitting with a spinning wheel. ये चरखा होता है, where she used to make, or all the old ladies in those days used to make threads, the threads out of cotton. Okay, now let's see. However, she loved feeding sparrows in the veranda at dawn. In the early morning, she used to feed sparrows. Breaking bread into pieces and feeding it to the birds was her daily routine. The birds would sit on her legs, her head, some even on the shoulders. See in the picture, you can see the sparrows are sitting on the grandmother's hand and shoulder. So you can visualize the whole story. Soon, the author decided to go abroad for further studies. She came to the railway station to leave him off. She was not sentimental, continuously recited her prayers, her mind lost in the prayers, and she kissed him on the forehead. See in the picture, you can see that the grandmother, she has come to the railway station and she is looking quite sad, but the expression was not so much on the grandmother's face. After 5 years, as he returned home, she was there, came to pick him at the station, was still the same as she had been 5 years ago. You also must have felt this, that when I was born my grandmother looked same, and after you grew, now likely you must be of 16 17 years, and same, the grandmother looks same, she was always same. So that here the author also feels that same feeling. After returning from abroad after 5 years, the grandmother looked same. She clasped him within her arms and didn't say a word. She still used to feed her sparrows. One day she didn't recite her prayers, but instead collected the women of the neighborhood, got a drum, and started singing. The next morning she was ill and mild fever. The doctor said that there was nothing to worry about, but she was sure that her end was near. See the picture, the grandmother in the picture. She looks ill, she looks sad, as if she has understood that her end was near, her death is approaching. She didn't want to waste her time talking to anyone in the family anymore, but spend her last hours in reciting her prayers, laying on the bed. She died, and her body lay on the bed lifeless. So the last, you get a lot of question on this last moment of grandmother, what she was doing, how was the last day, how the day was different from other days, and last moment what she was doing. Last hour also she was she spent her last hours in reciting her prayers, and the previous day she called all the other ladies of the village, of the locality, of the neighborhood, all the village, and they played drum, and she was feeling very tired, she felt sick. All these things you get questions. Now after the death of the grandmother, when the dead body was still lying, then what happened? As they prepared for her funeral, they saw all the sparrows sitting in the veranda around her, mourning her death. So every day she used to feed the sparrows, no, giving the breadcrumbs and all. But that day the grandmother didn't take any. The grandmother was lying over there, and so what happened? The sparrows didn't eat those breadcrumbs. This is in the picture. You can see another grandmother at the last part of the video, and that's all about the story, the sad ending of the story. Even you get a lot of questions that how did the sparrows mourn the grandmother's death. That also you should know. You should, after watching the video, you must read the text very minutely, and in my next video I will be uploading the details about the meanings and other details of the lesson. So till then, bye. And this video was presented by Matchless Mentor. I am your mentor, English teacher Soma Verma. And on the picture you can see a grandmother. She is my family member, and you can make out with this note only I will end this video. So meet you again in the next video. Till then, bye.